I remember my dad coming to me, tears in his eyes, and he was like, "You've got to be shitting me. You know, the enemy couldn't kill you, now you're going to do it for them." That was really the pivotal moment in the recovery. You can set new goals. You can, these dreams that you used to have, yeah, they might be a little bit different now, but you can still chase after them. I was not doing what I'm doing now on two legs. I figured out how to suffer well. And when people can watch you, suck it up and pull that grit from deep down, that's when people want to latch on to what you're doing and do more. Be better, be faster, be stronger, do more. If your head and your heart are in the right place, you can do absolutely anything, especially physically. And one of the things that I've really just lived my life by is it's the 6 inches between your ears and what's behind your rib cage. And that determines what you're capable of.
Well, Kirstie, thanks so much for having us here in your hotel room.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Yeah, we talking last night, and we were going to meet you in the booth, but due to a few circumstances, we're really stoked to be here and meeting you here. So it's all good, right?
Yeah, become real close real quick.
Right? Let me move your dirty laundry for you so I can set a chair up over here. I don't know whose underwear I was touching earlier. I don't know, but I know they were a man's underwear, so I was all right with it. I figure my wife's not going to get mad at me for moving this underwear around, right?
There you go.
But you do a lot of sheep shows and things, huh? I mean, this is not your first go-around.
No, I love it. It's like a big family reunion every time.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
What's your favorite part of the sheep show?
Just the people.
Yeah?
I mean, people in the chaos, really. Okay, controlled chaos.
So tell me the best shit show you've seen at a sheep show. Maybe it was last year.
I don't know. I feel like I've probably been the biggest shit show at times. Oh, I don't know. The biggest shit show. No, honestly, it wasn't a shit show, but last year it was pretty powerful for me.
Yeah.
We showed, just a story about what happened to me, and we were auctioning off this buffalo skull that Nevada Grassi had carved up for us, and we were trying to raise money for Wounded Warrior Outdoors, and it ended up raising $100,000. And lucky me, every time I come to sheep show, it's my birthday week or my birthday weekend, and gentleman got up, paid $100,000, donated it to Wounded Warrior Outdoors, and then gave me my buffalo skull right back.
I saw that last year.
Yeah, so not so much shit show, but that was probably my most memorable moment from last year.
Whose underwear was I moving? I was just thinking about. I need to put a name to the underwear.
That's Sam.
Sam?
Yeah. So the founder of Wounded Warrior Outdoors is Ron, and Sam is his son.
Gotcha. Well, Sam, it's nice to meet you.
There you go.
In an odd way. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is Brandon with Wilderness Attitude Podcast. I have a really special guest today, Kirstie Ennis. And Kirstie, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
How's things going? You're in a busy part of your schedule, aren't you?
Oh, I feel like the winter months are always slammed. I mean, everything from, I head to Ecuador in just a couple weeks, going to climb a volcano, to hunts and trade shows and public speaking. It gets crazy pretty quick.
I'm sure your docket is full. You're a very popular woman in this world right now. What do you think? Well, I'm not going to jump that far ahead. Let's rewind back to when life was simple and you were just a kid. Where did you grow up?
Well, I have Marine parents, so I call Florida home, but we bounced around quite a bit from East Coast to West Coast, the different Marine Corps bases, and I loved it. We've lived in motorhomes and trailer parks and the broad spectrum of places. And, I've been really fortunate to just have some pretty unique experiences shape my life and kind of make me into the person I am now.
Yeah, that's, it's like you hear both sides of that deal, right? Being a kid in the military, bouncing around. I mean, some people really embrace that adventurism in a sense, right? Being bounced from school to school and base to base and all this stuff and leaving friends behind and things like that. But but some really, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, changing schools, you never really have the lifelong friends that you hear about. Everything's always getting flipped upside down. But, instead of looking at what you lose, look at what you gain. And, I saw all 50 states by the time I was a teenager. And,
holy cow.
I mean, there's not much that I haven't seen at this point in the U.S.
What did your parents do for the Marines to make it through that many states in that amount of time?
Well, my dad was artillery and my mom was supply, but my dad was hurt overseas, and then, obviously kind of forced into a medical retirement, and he went to work on the pipeline, and we chased him around all over the place as he was chasing oil and chasing the different pipelines.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I had friends that did that. They were welders, and holy cow, the places they got to go welding pipeline was pretty cool.
It's pretty unreal. Yeah.
So, growing up as a Marine child, I did the same thing, although my dad was out before I was born. So, I mean, I had kind of a dad like that. My dad looked over his shoulder a lot. Like, he was a very defensive guy coming back in out of Vietnam and different things. It was a tough time. With you coming up through the Marines in that sense, do you recall anything like that through your folks?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So I'll give you a little background here. But, so my mom and my dad got married at 18. Dad leaves, joins the Marine Corps right off the bat. Fast forward 9 years later, we're living on Marine Corps Base 29 Palms. And my mom comes inside and she says, these female Marines are pretty badass. And my dad's like, I'll never be married to a female Marine. My mom turns around, leaves, joins the Marine Corps, gets an age waiver, and off she goes. But, my mom never deployed, but she very much so had to take care of my dad and him returning home from deployments and the things that he saw and, so on and so forth. And I remember from my first deployment when I came home, I thought I was okay. I totally underestimated the whole leaving a combat zone and coming into being a civilian and just the huge differences that you don't think twice about. But, my family came and picked me up on Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, and I didn't want anything to do with being near the bases or being near other Marines. So we went up north to L.A., and we're going to play tourist for a little bit, and we hit the hotel, and I disappeared. I left my family, I left my wallet, left my keys, left my phone, left everything. And after I had calmed down and kind of regrouped and came back to the hotel, I walked in and my mom's crying, my sister's scared, my dad's just confused, and my mom looked at me and she was like, I dealt with this with your dad. We're going to figure this out and we're going to handle it. So, with the things that I came home with, whether that's hypervigilance or just the anxieties or whatever it was, I was really fortunate to have the parents that had already dealt with it. They were stern and definitely tough love. My dad, super impatient man. But
we got that in common.
It definitely helped me out in the long run.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, looking back on some of that stuff with my father, I was young. I didn't understand why he had to sit in the corner. I didn't understand why he was always in the rearview mirror. Why he always drove around. He took a different way home all the time, and lots of different stuff. And I mean, that is way before they identified any of the post stuff that you guys deal with coming home, and I don't ever like to really label it as anything because I think that some of that's like, I don't agree with the word disorder and different things. It's just, it's not positive. I don't know if it really is a disorder.
No, yeah. Well, I think that's the biggest mistake too, is people try to treat a disorder and it's like, no, treat the symptoms of it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, we were talking about, stern parents and, after I got hurt in Afghanistan and I came home, some of the greatest things that my parents did for me were they were impatient. I remember everybody came into my hospital room and they wanted to take care of me and help me do all these things. And my mom would look at me and be like, you're sorry ass can do it for yourself. And it was like, wait a second, yeah, I can. And I think a lot of that did come from the Marine Corps and, right. The things that they had seen and how they were shaped. So,
well, maybe she recognized that adapt and conquer kind of mentality. I mean, that's, you gotta be able to do that when you're deployed. There's all sorts of curveballs that get thrown your way every second. And so she knows it's in you. She knows that you're capable, right? And so, that's a cool story we could touch on is like when you're laying there, when you closed your eyes, what went through your eyelids? You know what I'm talking about when you close your eyes and you got your own story going on.
Oh yeah.
And you're scripting this shit as it's rolling through, and you could rewrite it 10 times and it never seems right. I mean, what were those things that you were thinking about or seeing?
June 23rd, 2012 started like any other day. I'd done many missions just like it. The flight, everything. It should have been a textbook flight. And it started like any other day. We go outbound, we go and pick up 3 Army medics, and we're going to go bring supplies to Forward Operating Base Now Zad, and we're going to go from Now Zad to Musa Qala, where some Marines needed air support. And unfortunately, we never made it to Musa Qala. And I remember with my night vision goggles down, just looking at the ground. I was on left gun. Helicopter comes nose up and starts to roll left. And so all I do is, the first question people ask me is, what were you thinking? Did you pray? And I just counted. I counted until we hit the ground, just like what you would do normally when you have a typical landing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mains on deck. And I just watched and watched and watched, and we hit the ground. And when I woke up, it was I wasn't in any pain. And I wanted to scream, and it was like you couldn't even get the screams out. But my legs had collapsed underneath me, obviously resulting in a left leg above the knee amputation. I had spinal cord trauma, had damage to my arms, and the most vivid wound, and what we're thinking happened, was that the barrel of my .50 caliber machine gun came back and up through my face. In turn, obviously losing my jaw, losing all my teeth, and I just remember rolling my tongue around my mouth and feeling all the grit and the crumble and wanting to scream, and I didn't realize the damage done to my face. I knew that my teeth were gone, I knew that jaw was gone, and I knew my nose was broken and everything was swollen, but I could fit my fist through my lower right side of my face. And
holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm like, I remember hearing the pilot screaming. God bless him, my tail gunner, for whatever reason, tried coming off of his gunner's belt, and he flew out the back of the aircraft before we hit the ground, and it was just chaos. And I remember almost being in somebody else's shoes, almost outside looking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the Marines from 2-5 came out and provided security, and started stripping the guns and all the important stuff off the helicopter that we could get. And they threw us into the back of the lead aircraft that we were with, because you always fly in sections out in Afghanistan, or in pairs rather. And I remember the left gunner on the other helicopter looking over at me and saying, "Don't close your eyes again, because you're not going to fucking open them." And I just laid there, and there's these little lights in the cabin overhead. We call them cabin blues, and just a little tiny light. And I stared at it and was like, all right, you're not going to die without seeing your sister. That's the goal. If you're going to close your eyes, you're saying bye.
Good goal.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for the next 30 minutes, kind of, obviously a long version of the question that you asked, but for the next 30 minutes, I just remember laying on the floorboard, basically, of this helicopter, and replaying everything over in my head, and the ways that, things that could have gone differently, and, the outcome, what's going to happen after. Then I was so numb that I had fully prepared, that I was going to die, that I didn't know what else was wrong. I couldn't feel anything, really. Mm-hmm. And I remember when my gunnery sergeant and my sergeant major walked into this makeshift hospital that we had out in Camp Bastion, and they were both crying, and they just looked at me, and I knew I was going home. I knew it was done. And that was the most gut-wrenching thing. It was almost like a survivor's guilt type thing. I didn't want to leave. I still had 2 months left of that deployment, and I was supposed to be there with my guys, and my whole world was flipped upside down. They packaged me up, and they sent me on my way to Kandahar, then Germany, a place called Landstuhl, and then D.C. to Walter Reed, and then finally on to San Diego. And I didn't realize how bad the traumatic brain injury and my head trauma was.
Right.
And God love my mom and my dad, because they took the brunt of a lot of the things, just the recovery and the emotional side of things. And I had in my mind how things were going to go, but I had so much just damage to my right frontal lobe that, as I'm processing how I'm going to heal, none of it was going right. It was like facing setback after setback after setback.
Right.
And, I did 2 years of speech therapy, 2 years of cognitive therapy, vestibular, physical, mental health, the whole nine. And I just never seemed to fail that. The ways that I did plan it out as it going, it never did.
What was that pivotal moment, though, when you were through this process where you finally flipped that switch, I'm gonna throw all this in the fire, and I'm gonna let it burn, and I'm gonna let it burn inside me, and I'm gonna use that to push myself forward?
Tying back to my parents, I thought I was okay for the first year of my recovery, but I fought for about a year to stay in, and the Marine Corps came back to me and said, "You're unfit for duty. We can waive the damage to your leg and in your body, but damage to your head, your eyes, your ears. Like it's just too much of a liability. And I went into a downward spiral fast. Giving up. I didn't think there was purpose. Obviously, as a young woman, you're dealing with all of these just changes to everything, your head, your heart, your body. And, I thought it was all over. And I had truly given up. And I remember my dad coming to me, tears in his eyes, and he was like, "You've got to be shitting me. The enemy couldn't kill you. Now you're going to do it for them." And that was when my light bulb went off. It was like, wait a second. There is life after service. There is a lot left out there. And, I joined the Marine Corps to serve people. Now was my time to figure out how I was going to continue serving people. And, I heard a random statistic. It's probably not even really that true, but it was that as humans, we only use 10% of our potential. And I was like, well, now I'm on a really unique platform. Like, what if you can inspire men, women, and children to use more of their potential? Like, just inspire them. Like, utilize what you have in front of you to make the best of the situation. And that was really the pivotal moment in the recovery, because I was like, you know what? You can set new goals. You can, these dreams that you used to have, yeah, they might be a little bit different now, but you can still chase after them.
Absolutely. Who inspired you when you were younger? Was it your parents mostly, or were there other people that were your idols or heroes, real heroes, right?
I probably maybe the little cheesy answer, but yeah, it was definitely my parents, because I remember watching my mom and my dad my whole life wake up every morning and put on the uniform and doing something for the greater good, doing something that was bigger than them. And, again, being in the military, there's never a question of what your purpose is, what your role is. Like, it's very cut and dry.
Specific,
you protect those that can't protect themselves. And I always thought that was super just honorable and commendable. And, I wore, my Barbie dolls, for crying out loud, wore dress blues instead of princess gowns. And I just remember idolizing them and really thinking that, they were the real heroes.
The real deal.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. So what can you recall, like, did your mom and dad ever have time to take you fishing or take you hunting? What was your first wilderness experience?
My first wilderness experience. I was actually really fortunate that my parents supported any kind of crazy little endeavor that my mind could come up with. So there was never really a sport that I didn't do. I tried it all by the time I was, in grade school and everything. But, some of my proudest moments were just going out with my dad and going out whitetail hunting. I never killed a monster buck growing up or anything like that, but it was always really cool. I'd go and visit my Uncle Decker. It was my dad's best friend from the Marine Corps. And they'd give me one of their basically nuisance tags. And at 12, 13 years old, I'd just walk outside, walk back into the cornfields on the dairy farm, and, I set myself up. And that's a pretty rare thing. Like, I don't feel like a lot of kids have those opportunities. And, it's pretty proud. They set me up well enough to be able to go out and do those things without them, leaving them behind, so kind of cool.
A friend of mine, that it was kind of the same, a gentleman who I interviewed him, who's become a good friend, when he went out in the woods, they same thing. They're like, they just took him out there at 12 years old and said, just sit here.
Yeah, dumped him off.
Shoot a doe, right? If you see a doe, shoot it. So he shot a doe. He waited a little while. Nobody came to get him. He moved. He shot another doe. Still nobody came to pick him up. So he cruised around. He shot another doe. Finally, it's getting dark, and then his uncle comes and gets him, and he's like, well, did you see anything? He's like, yeah, I shot a doe. Well, where's that? Over here. They go over there. Cool. It's like, oh, yeah, no. There's another one over there. He's all, another what? Another doe. You shot another doe? Yeah. They go over and they pick it up. Oh, and there's another doe, and he's like, okay, all right. That's enough of that shit. Showing everybody up and whatnot. Get your ass in the truck. We ain't doing this again.
There you go.
And then they were mad at him. They didn't want to take him hunting anymore because they thought if they could just go dump him in somewhere where there's no deer, that he's hunting, but yet they're not going to screw up his hunting. And he's the only one that shot a deer all day.
There you go. That's how it goes.
That's good stuff. So through your military, after the accident, and you regain this new attitude, and not maybe a new attitude, but a rekindled attitude of it's still your purpose to help people and protect people and lead people and try to do some of that, take me through that next year where you're trying to figure out and how you're putting that together now.
Well, it was a lot of trial and error, to be totally honest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you really, I had to figure out my new niche and figure out what I was good at. And especially, I had a long recovery. Mentally and emotionally, it was devastating. But, I've had just way too many setbacks with, my leg and the different things like that. But I started dabbling in, snowboarding, competing with Team USA, working towards going to the Paralympics, and that was great, and I loved it. But I still didn't feel like I was really engaging the masses. But 2 years ago, I did a 1,000-mile walk across the UK, and I did it to honor 25 Marines that never made it home, or they took their own life after they came home. And I made memorial dog tags for each one, and I carried them for 40 miles, and I left them in significant places all across the UK. And at about mile 500, week 5, a little girl in a wheelchair with braces on her legs comes up to me and says, "I'm just like you." And I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And, and I turned around and I was like, you know what? You are just like me, and you can do whatever the hell you want to do with the rest of your life. And, fast forward week 6 or week 7, a little boy with something as small as hearing aids came up to me and said, "I'm just like you." And the way that he put that together, I thought about it and said, you know what? You are just like me. Like, don't worry about these predetermined limitations that other people are setting for you. Like,
right.
Go out and chase your dreams. And that was when I realized there's a lot more people out there with, of course I'm dedicated and committed to the military and the veteran populations, but that was the moment I realized there's a lot of people out there that can either use my story or just watch what I'm doing and hopefully find some sort of strength or motivation in it. And that's when I really kind of started dabbling in the extreme side of things, mountaineering, being the first, female above the knee amputee to go out and, do all 7 summits and do the North Pole and the South Pole and climb Everest and climb, these crazy mountains because people are watching. And hopefully young people are watching, women are watching and, wanting to just do more. And, it's miserable, but miserable at times. Let me rephrase that. But I figured out how to suffer well. And when people can watch you, suck it up and pull that grit from deep down, that's when people want to latch on to what you're doing and do more. That's when they're inspired. So yeah, I would definitely say the moment I did that 1,000-mile walk, which is crazy in the first place, just 1,000 miles alone, that's when I was like, you know what, this is how you're going to do this. This is how you're going to continue serving people.
Mm-hmm. And so at that point, who do you call? I mean, what do you do? How did you, or were people calling you at this point saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that? I mean, a lot of what people, they have a hard time with, they have great ideas, but they just don't know where to start or how to start. I mean, tell us what you think people should do or how you did it,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be the best person to ask advice for this because I've done it the hard way with everything, I mean, everything all the way down to the physical aspects, not even asking people for help with how should I do this better. I've just gutted it out and grinded it out and hoped for the best and didn't really do things the smarter, not harder way. But, I really I come up with ideas and I go after them. I almost become obsessed with them to the point of where it might even be unhealthy at times, but I get these ideas and I truly believe in them. And I think that comes with just believing in yourself, knowing that regardless of what's going on in your personal life, that there's, right. I mean, you can still overcome anything. Those adversities, no matter how small or how big, you can still push past them and break those down. And, I got to the point where it was like, you can come with me or not, but you're going to watch me do it later.
There you go.
so it's, I've just gotten to a point now where it's like, I'm going to do it regardless of if you tell me I can or if I can't, or you support me or you don't. I want to nibble on greatness, not choke on mediocrity. And that's just how I've lived life.
Right. Well, you mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started recording about, just empowering people to disconnect, go outside, right?
Well, the biggest thing is, we all too often get so wrapped up in our phones, our social media, and hiding behind keyboards, and it's like we have these great resources outside that we're not capitalizing on. And the outdoors shapes our life from, when we're knee-high to a grasshopper, and it should all the way through the rest of our lives because there's so much out there to offer. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we overlook it. We take it for granted. We totally take it for granted.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, there's so much public land, and the world is so vast, and even then, it doesn't mean I'm not talking about traveling the world or doing anything like that. I mean, just getting out and going for a walk, walk to the end of your driveway, go outside, just do something. I mean, there's so many hobbies and so many things that don't cost money or that cost tons of money, or, I mean, just whatever you want to do, right? And there's no sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I totally fall victim to, like I said, taking things for granted. I was not doing what I'm doing now on two legs. You know, I'm
Right.
doing more now that I've been missing my leg, and it's because you took it for granted. Like, there's nothing easy about what I'm doing anymore. There's no putting one foot in front of the other. There's no rolling out of bed real quick. You know, nothing.
Nope.
But because I lost that, it was like, oh, wait a second. I do still want to run. I do still want to hike and climb mountains and go fishing and go hunting and do all the things that I could have been doing before.
Right.
And, you know, and it's one of those things, too, something as simple as absorbing, you know, just the visual stimulation that's outside. Like, we overlook just the blue sky and the green grass or the white snow.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it's like people don't, it would take somebody going blind for them to say, wow, I really miss that. I really need that.
I mean, it comes down to everything that way, right? I mean, you never know what you have until you lose it. I mean, it comes down to your favorite Hot Wheels car, the love of your life, your marriage, your anything, right? I mean, any endeavor, anything that's important. Isn't it weird as humans that we do that?
Oh, absolutely.
I just don't get it. I mean, we'll beat ourselves up. We'll throw ourselves under the bus in order to destroy things. We do lots of crazy crap. And yet, you know, if you can pay attention, open your eyes and your heart and your arms and pay attention to it, you realize that hopefully before you nosedive, right, that you, no pun intended,
yeah.
right, but that you figure it out before it's too late, you know. And is there anything in your life when you had two legs that you regret not doing, that you think now, damn, if I had done that with two, it would have been a lot easier?
Well,
I
mean, even on my sheep hunt, I went on this amazing Dall sheep hunt this past August, and it kicked my ass. I was humbled. I was humbled by the hunt. I was humbled by the mountains. And there are several times that my head fell into my hands when I was crying and said, what if you had done this with two legs? How much easier would it have been then? You know, like, how much different would it have been?
Right.
And those are the moments where it's like, what were you doing with your life beforehand? Like,
well, you were serving your country.
Well,
I mean,
that's something. Yeah,
we got a few things that
Yeah, but it's just I just be better, be faster, be stronger, do more. Like, I can't emphasize that enough for other people.
Right.
If you were, I hate the term disabled.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly.
You are totally able, regardless of what's going on in your life. You just have to figure out how you're going to do it. And I can't push that message out there more, because I feel like so many people just sit in their complacency and they're okay with it. And that's fine if that's how you want to live your life, but don't settle.
No.
And definitely don't think that you can't for whatever
Right.
reason, because absolutely you can.
Well, and I love how you say it. When I was watching the first Adventures in Naval thing, I love how you guys give each other so much shit. And you guys are like, you've embraced it. You've embraced your situation. You're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're not, you're comfortable in your place and in your skin at this point. And the way you guys harass each other and the way you guys take, your situations and laugh at yourself and laugh at each other is awesome. I mean, when I watched that was one of the things that I grabbed out of all of that the most, was that, just that spirit.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, our legs or our limbs aren't going back. There's no point in wallowing in it and being upset and woe is me.
Right.
You might as well laugh at yourself and learn to laugh at the people around you, because you're all going through it in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
And so, yeah, but that's the biggest thing, too, is you got to give each other grief. I mean,
Right.
You have to make light of the situation, because, yeah, it does suck. But, but quite frankly, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's not changing.
No, it isn't changing. And I even loved how through the clip how they're like, well, that's bullshit. He's left-hand dominant, and he got to keep his left hand?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they blown his left hand off so we could win this competition?
Yeah.
It's like, what? You really Okay, you're gonna wish that upon somebody, but not really. I mean, I know we're all joking, but it's just like some of that stuff that was in there was awesome.
Well, I'm sure for like outsiders looking in too, it's like, am I supposed to laugh at that? Is that funny?
Right. Yeah, but but that's the side that people that people like me who don't. I mean, I can't say that I have any friends that or that have lost any limbs or anything like that. I mentioned to you about Selena, back when I was younger, who had put a couple helicopters in the ground and she was stitched all back together. I mean, she wasn't missing anything, but she had some serious mental damage. I mean, like there were times where she was awesome and in the moment and happy, and then there was days where she would flat out, she wouldn't look at me, she wouldn't answer the door, she'd slip a note out the door and be like, I need a few days.
Right.
Come back in a few days. Like she couldn't face the world some days. And that was my first interaction with some of that. And I learned that you just had to be patient, and you had to, when she would laugh at her stuff. I mean, she'd look at you sometimes and be like, "Holy crap! Like, what was I doing? Why is it smoky in here?" And I'm like, "Holy crap, Selena, your pan is on fire!" It's like, just different things. I mean, it was just, I don't know. But looking at that film, and I think I could just only encourage people to go and check out the Adventures Enabled stuff, because, it may not make you so uncomfortable to be around people that are in the situations, right? And that they're just people. You're just people.
Yeah.
Just like you and me,
Well, I think that's
right?
one of the big goals, especially, with Adventures Enabled, is you want to desensitize things.
Right. That's the word I should have picked up on. Yeah.
But, just, it is lighthearted. I mean, and, my biggest thing, too, is it's like, people stare. They're curious. And I don't mind that. A little kid especially, like, it's genuine curiosity. And my favorite thing is will run up and want to touch my leg and say, "Oh, my God, you're a transformer." And, it's funny. But even as adults, if you're looking at me, open your mouth. Right. Ask me the questions you want to ask me. Don't make up stories in your head.
Right.
But ask me, just, hell, does it hurt? What happened?
Right.
And yeah, that is the goal, because there is a lot of this going on in the world. And we really do. We want to like just shatter all of those just preconceived thoughts and, whatnot. And don't treat us any differently. Look at us and laugh and walk up to us, slug us in the arm and say, "Hey, let's go have a beer." Or,
right.
We are no different. I mean, we might look funny.
I look at some of your guys' legs and I'm like, man, the engineering and the research and all the stuff that they put into some of that stuff, I'm like, I want to play with that thing. Like, I want to totally like check it out and dissect it. Can I take it apart and put it back together again?
Yep.
Is that something I can do? I mean, my son Aiden, he's that way. He takes apart everything and puts it back together, and because he just wants to know how it works.
Yep.
And so I'm the same way. Even at 46, I got genuine child curiosity of things, right? So when you got into this situation with the Adventures Enabled and the Wounded Warriors Outdoors and all that, I mean, I'm sure you were like, yeah, man, right? I mean, this just resonates for you, I think.
Absolutely. Well, Wounded Warrior Outdoors, 100% volunteer-based nonprofit organization where we take servicemen and women, injured servicemen and women, out on just therapeutic adventures all over the place. And it's an interesting story just because when they surfaced in my life the first time, I didn't want anything to do with them. It was
Why?
October 2013. I was comfortable. I was comfortable at the hospital. I was comfortable with my little routine. I didn't want to go outside of the four walls of the hospital. I didn't want to meet new people. I had severe hypervigilance, severe anxieties about leaving, and I would have been going from San Diego to Orlando. And, luckily I had Marines around me that I'd gone through Wounded Warrior Outdoors in the past, and they really encouraged me to get on the plane and just go. Just send it and, hope for the best, and you'll be fine kind of thing. And I got there, and it's interesting to see the evolution from the start of one of these therapeutic trips, because at first everyone's standoffish, no one wants to talk to each other, and by the end of it we're all crying and wishing we didn't have to leave. And the Wounded Warrior Outdoors truly showed me a new brotherhood. I was leaving my Marine Corps one, but look at all these people out here that we're like-minded. We have the same sense of humor. We can relate to each other with our experiences, and we can actually communicate and make ourselves, feel maybe a little bit vulnerable to actually heal mentally and emotionally. And there's a lot going on there. And so Wounded Warrior Outdoors really just kind of took hold of me, took a big piece of my heart really quickly. And then Matt Amos, who's actually the co-host of Adventures Enabled with me, we sat down and we just had this idea. Like it's never about making $1 million, but it might be about making $1 million to give $1 million away. And we sat there and we were like, there's a lot of people who are amputees or who have these disabilities or who are, confined some way, shape, or form to their homes. And we wanted to be able to distribute something that they could watch from their computer or their TV and be like, you know what? This isn't so bad. I can do more. I can go outside and I can go adventure. And that's really what the intent behind Adventures Enable is, just to inspire people, not just the veteran community. Yes, we're all vets and we're all rowdy and military, but it's for everybody. It's really to show everybody that you can do more.
Yeah, the message is very clear to any human being, plain and simple. But I think, like you said, it took away a lot of the stigmatism, and as far as the approachability, and then you guys are just having fun.
Yep.
Man, and it's so cool to see you guys come out of the depths of hell, in a sense, right, and come back and regain that confidence and that attitude to move forward, and then collectively come together and then just throw it all into a cool thing. I mean, when I saw the first little 30-second trailer of that, I thought, what in the hell? I was like, it had my interest in 30 seconds.
Right.
I was like,
Good.
that was well executed. And so I was trying to reach out to Kevin. I'm like, what in the world is this deal that you're getting involved in, right? And I was just like, I want to know more. And I was just like, that looks like a good time.
Yeah.
Like I could hang out there, So it was, after watching that first one, now you're in the second one. I mean, your sheep hunts is the second part of the second episode, right? Do you call it an episode?
Yeah.
Are you doing that? So, and now I've seen a trailer of it. I think I could pick up in the trailer. There's some success there, and some failures, and some triumph, and some strife, and like you mentioned, it was really hard, really difficult. But in the end, when you walked away from that whole thing, what did you learn about yourself up there on that hill?
Well, the biggest thing is that I'm still capable. I'm still capable of doing the things that I thought I could do or wanted to try, years ago. The biggest thing that I struggled with in the hospital was just doubt. Doubt from people around me, doubt in myself. And then going out and doing these things, it's like, oh, no. You figure out what you want to do and you let that passion burn in your heart and you go after it. And, whether it was my legs breaking or, just tumbling down mountains or whatever it was.
One guy caught you, man. Like you were getting ready to go for a 100-yard roll.
Yeah. But, it reminds you just, if your head and your heart are in the right place, you can do absolutely anything, especially physically. And one of the things that I've really just lived my life by is it's the 6 inches between your ears and what's behind your rib cage. And that determines what you're capable of. So
I've never heard that. That's good.
Came from the brain.
Came from the brain. Is that your own creation?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That should be on a shirt, right? I mean, that blows away Keep Hammering any day, in my opinion. You need to. I think you could make $1 million with that shirt and give it back.
Well, there we go.
So in there, your biggest rival on Adventures Enabled. Who's your biggest rival there? Sizing them up. What was your gig?
My biggest rival in Adventures Enabled and WWO and everything is my co-host Matt. He is, it's a love-hate relationship. It's definitely brother sister just going at each other and ripping each other apart constantly.
Right.
And man, we hang shit on each other. It's like if I come home from a turkey hunt with nothing and he does, like I never live it down. And
excellent.
But yeah, he's definitely my biggest opponent in all things life.
Where's he? We should have had him in here on this. This could have been a lot of fun.
He was actually meant to be here, but unfortunately had some family stuff. So
yeah. The family's important. That's
absolutely.
Good. So you were on the Mangina team. Is that right? Did I get that right?
I was floating around on all the teams, really.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I distanced myself from some of them. But yeah, there was Mangina,
Who came up with
Dingleberry.
these names?
Ron, the founder of Wounded Warrior Outdoors. Yeah.
That was pretty good. And Hillary.
Hillary.
That's
yeah.
a good one. And they won the first one, right?
Team Hillary won the whole thing.
The whole thing.
It was hard for some of those guys to admit it, but yeah, she won the whole thing.
That's too bad in a way.
Yeah, people didn't like saying it, that's for sure.
So, I mean, I saw the event last year on your Buffalo, and the gentleman that won the bid on the buffalo skull, and then he gave it back to you, and that was when I first kind of you caught my radar, right? And then I'd have to say that there was a few things I followed and a few things here and there that I caught you in, and then when you resurfaced in my mind on the Sports Illustrated cover, that was epic, was it not? I mean that grabbed a lot of attention.
Yeah, well, when they reached out to me for the body issue, initially I was obviously pretty standoffish, time to bear all for the whole world. I was like, oh my God.
When they came to you, when they came to you and they said, this is what we see, this is what we want, were you like, yeah? Well,
it was funny because they, originally they knew about me because of the mountaineering and the snowboarding. And they knew a little bit about the climbing, and they were really trying to figure out like what we would do, what was going to be original. Because if you look at all of the other athletes that were in the body issue, they're in a studio. They're holding, a basketball or whatever their respective sport is. Right. But none of them are actually doing their sports. And so when I told them that I wanted to actually climb, they were like, really? So, and I honestly think that's why I ended up making the cover and everything, was because I was actually doing my sport, the thing that I was passionate about, and it was none of it staged. I mean, that's really climbing. That's not a rock wall. That is genuinely being out in Joshua Tree, California, climbing
naked. On a wall. Yeah, that's crazy. Go ahead. No,
but when I thought about it, there's naysayers out there, and there's always going to be somebody that has something bad to say or some sort of hate to spread. But I thought about it, and I was like, but what happens when there is somebody dealing with the body, just a body issue, some sort of self-consciousness or whatever it is, or body image? Like, somebody's going to see that and be like, you know what, this is all right. I can go out there and I can do, again, bear all or do whatever you want. And the biggest impact that I had from it was the parents. Parents reached out to me and said, hey, I showed my kid that, and they think it is badass. Or, hey, I showed my kid that you're rock climbing with one leg. It was, people totally overlooked the fact that my butt's on the cover. They were looking at, she's still going out and doing these things. And it was the first time that a veteran's been featured, the first time that mountaineers and rock climbers were getting recognition as a sport. And so that was really, it was a really just cool, again, humbling experience.
Well, like coming back to the naysayers and the keyboard warriors, all this different stuff. You were so vulnerable and so transparent and so yourself and your gig, doing it the way you wanted to do it, that what could they say?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? You almost, they could be like, oh, that's crazy. She would do that naked or whatever. But in the end, there is nothing. You're hiding nothing. So there's no skeleton to be trying to get out of the closet here,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it was. It was quite the experience. And like I said, in the end, it was rewarding, and it was rewarding for a variety of reasons. Like I said, the parents, that meant the most to me, because it was like, again, you're still inspiring, or you're still trying to shape the youth and show them, like, use more of your potential.
Right. And us in the United States were like, oh my God, right? But you take that to Europe and they're like,
like, whatever.
What's the big deal?
Yes. Exactly.
I can totally appreciate your vision being like, no, I'm gonna actually do it, right? I'm gonna do this, and you can take as many pictures as you want, and that's pretty neat. I wondered where did that vision come? Where were you when you thought of that? Were you just when they approached you and whatever? Did you talk it over with your parents? Did you talk it over with anybody, or not your parents, right?
No,
okay, so what did they say with this?
Oh my God, when that cover, well, I think it was a bigger deal because it came out on the cover, and there was no hiding it at that point. Like, at least, like, if it's on a coffee table somewhere, it's not me. They'd have to, like, flip through it to find me. But oh my God, my mom and my dad were like, what the hell is going on? But then after, like, they realized, she did it to display, like, to hell with you guys. You say I can't do it, I'm going to do it anyways. And like I said, in the end, it helped people. But
you could go full circle and go back to your mom and be like, "Oh, I was laying in that,
yeah,
in the bed in the hospital. You're the one that started.
Told me to do it.
You're the one that started this shit."
Yeah, no, but I do remember my grandmother. My grandmother was upset. I have being from the South, if you will. Oh my God, it was. I can't believe you let people take pictures of you like that, and And it's funny too, because like people, like you were asking about how we staged it or what the vision was, and I just looked at the photographers and said, "I'm climbing. I'm going to climb. You guys keep up." And I just ran all over these rocks, and they just followed me around the desert and let me do my thing.
Did you ever think at any points like, "Oh, I hope they don't keep that one. Oh, I hope they didn't get that." What I'm envisioning in my mind.
Well, my whole thing is, it's like, I have to admit, it was so funny because they're obviously in some of the shots they're shooting from the ground up.
That's
and
what I'm
just
saying.
like, oh, God.
I mean, when you did that one spread to get your leg up over the edge of that rock, are you thinking, I heard
awkward.
the camera click 100 times, right?
I know they got some strange angles. Well, it's so funny too because people were like, "Well, what are your thoughts the whole time?" And honestly, the hardest part was just dropping the rope for the first time, because then at that point you're just like, well, nothing's changing and they've seen it all, so to hell with it. Let's just climb.
This is it now, right? That's crazy. So how did you get involved with Wilderness Athlete?
Wilderness Athlete, I was introduced to them via Wounded Warrior Outdoors because they're obviously a huge supporter. And I started kind of researching what they were doing and what they stood by, and just fell in love with the concepts that they were doing, and my lifestyle obviously fits hand in hand with that. I mean, we're talking everything from, their products like Precision Vision to Altitude Advantage, obviously, with climbing Everest and the different peaks that I want to be doing. Like, a lot of the things that they're developing just goes hand in hand with what I'm doing. And I'll be the first person to test them and say, hey, this is awesome. This works for me. And it doesn't just tie into hunting. Like, when they say Wilderness Athlete, it's all things outdoors.
That's right.
So, I have, obviously they have their proteins and the different things like that. But, I mean, their other products, especially like Hydrate and Recover, holy cow. I mean, it comes with me everywhere. I mean, even from the days that I just had a rough night out drinking.
I got it right there in my bottle. I mean, yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The recovery you get out of it. I have people tell me, oh, yeah, I just double that shit up. After
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah, no, I really believe in everything that they stand for and the support that they have for their athletes. It's not, obviously being a business, it is about making money, but they want to see people truly excel and capitalize on their potential. And again, I beat a dead horse about potential, and they're truly out there trying to create products that will allow people to do more. So the passions and the missions behind what I'm doing and what they're doing, it just totally coincides.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's, and with talking with Courtney and Kevin here lately, and them saying, you need to sit down with Kirstie. You need to talk to her. I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. That'd be really cool. And they're like, and I'm a huge fan of Wilderness Athlete, have been long before I even started the podcast. And you're right. They're trying to embody and trying to reach out to more people that just aren't hunters, right? I mean, we want to reach out to Wilderness Athletes all over, but even the one line that they're doing where they're reaching out to all the workforce, right? Trying to get Hydrate and Recover into factories and into, production facilities, because they can show you that, the energy focus, all that stuff, it works. People can perform better for you for pennies.
Absolutely.
Instead, get the Gatorade, get the Powerade, get all these energy drinks out of here and give it to them.
Yeah.
Don't charge it. It'll come in return.
Yeah. No, I love it. I hope it just gets taken up by the masses, because it really is. It's great stuff.
I could only hope so as well, right? What's in your future?
Oh man.
I mean, we talked. You got a huge itinerary going, but I mean, what's the one thing maybe in the next year that is the highlight for you that you can't wait?
I'm really lucky that I do have so many crazy things going on, and I really do. I get to chase after all these just ridiculous ideas that I come up with. But there are two things that are really just tugging at my heartstrings. One is chasing after my Grand Slam with sheep. I would really love to say that I was the first amputee to get my Grand Slam, and I am well on my way to lining that up, and I'm looking forward to my bighorn sheep hunt. It's just going to be unreal, again, having to gut it out and muscle it and, chase after it, be one of the elite, be one of the sheep hunters. I'm really looking forward to that, but then also again, chasing after the 7 summits, the highest peak on each of the 7 continents. I am super honored to be able to say that I am not guiding, but I have facilitated the means to take the first all-female veteran team up Denali, the highest point in North America. And it's one of those moments where you're going to find what you're really made of. And again, figuring out how to suffer well.
So like you were talking earlier about just trying to lead others, right? And lead others to some of these cool situations. And maybe not so cool in the moment, right? But life building situations.
Yeah. Well, I was really lucky that just over the course of this seemingly enough never ending recovery of mine, people came out of the woodworks to help me. And it was people, the people and the experiences that have shaped who I am now. And I want to pay that forward. This isn't about Kirstie getting to the top of the mountains anymore. It's showing people that you can, period. Whatever your figurative or literal summit is, like, get after it.
Right.
And yeah, I want to be able to provide the means for other people to do some of these crazy adventures.
Yeah, but something that popped in my head. I mean, all this recovery, and you're finally kind of maybe at a point in mentally and now physically, and some different things. That have you stopped to consider love in your life at this point? I mean, and sharing this kind of situation. Yeah,
no, totally. It would be cool to share all of this with somebody, but in the reality of it is, like, I'd be a pain in the ass to deal with.
So you just need to find another pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And you guys are two peas in the pod, right?
Well, the biggest thing is finding somebody that can match my effort and respect my ambition, because there's a lot of it.
And so do you think you're intimidating to men, possibly, that
I think I'm
whether they can hang with you or not?
I think I'm intimidating to a lot of people. And again, like, I have an obnoxious amount of drive. I feel like my drive is alone is just overwhelming.
Right.
So yeah, I like to think that one day there'll be some crazy mountaineer hunter that can keep up and be like, you know what, go do your thing.
Right.
So
I hope so. Right.
We'll see.
I'm sure you hope so.
I'm pretty crazy and pretty stubborn. So God love whoever feels like they can deal with that.
Right on, right? So, I mean, with all these things going on, is there anything epic bucket list wise, like, that you can see 10 years, 20 years, I don't know, whether maybe it's not even an adventure. Maybe it's, well, I mean, life is an adventure, but what about, I mean, we touched love with kids maybe, or, I mean, is there something way off in the distance?
Way off in the distance, huh? No, I don't know. I like to think that, being a mom would be on the horizon at some point. But, I also like to think there are some, when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I went down there and helped raise $150,000 for clean water. Mm-hmm. And I get to go to all these crazy countries. And I would really like to think that instead of having my own kids, that there are a lot of other kids out there that I can go out and help. Maybe, I'm not saying adopt them.
Right.
I don't know if the world's ready for me to be a mom, but I could really go down there and influence a bunch of kids' lives.
Right.
And I would really like to be able to provide a means, like the kids in Cambodia. It's just the wars and everything that have taken place over there. There's still people getting blown up by landmines and stuff. Like, yeah,
stuff that's just lost out there, right?
I would love to be able to to branch out and be able to provide prosthetics for these kids. Maybe try and invest in some sort of 3D printing type thing, then be able to provide limbs for people that are dealing with the different amputations and stuff. So I think there are things out there right now that I want to be able to try and help the world, outside of just being a mom or the generic, I guess, ladder that people climb.
You're right.
I do things differently.
Just a tad, but not too far off the off the grid. But so a few things I always like to ask about pertain to the Wilderness Attitude podcast is where is your one favorite place in this world where it is the spot? The spot.
I can't get enough of Alaska. I really can't. Just the Alaska mountain range. It reminds you how small you are. The mountains, period. It reminds you that your problems don't really matter in the grand scheme, and it reminds you, it humbles you. Makes you take a step back and you realize just how small you actually are.
Do you see that spot right now? Like, where is there a spot? I'm talking about where you sit.
Spot. Oh, yeah. There's a spot in the Alaska mountain range called the Ruth's Glacier. And I can go out there and be romping around and be completely exhausted. And I'll throw myself down in the snow and just look around and be totally blown away by all of it.
Just the vista and the silence, maybe?
Well, because you're the only person out there. The world's totally untouched and pristine around you, and it's like I said, it's probably, I mean, being in the mountains, period, specifically out there, though, I mean, there's no one. It's just you. It's your self-reliance. It's your independence. It's everything that I fought for so long, just embodied in one little place.
Right.
You know, I fought to stay out of a wheelchair. I fought to rely, like, for me to just be myself again. And I feel like that totally encapsulates it. Like, it's just you living your life and being humbled.
Amen to that. So, well, I lost my train of thought.
Now you want to be in the mountains, not in Reno.
I'm sitting there thinking, it sounds really good. I could go there. You know, that's kind of one of the cool things to this podcast is I can always go back and, you know, and I'm wondering, my list might get a little big, you know, because I ask everybody that and I'm like, how am I going to ever get to all these places and try to and see these vistas and feel this and be there and that and try to in person grab that moment, you know, for myself. It's always cool listening to people describe it, but at the same time, no camera, no TV show, no hunting show, no, there isn't, it doesn't matter how good the cinematography is or anything. Nothing replaces your own 2 feet and your own 2 eyes.
Absolutely.
And your own senses in that moment, right?
Yep.
So I got a long way to go on that. So what are your wild goals of 2018? And it's kind of a wilderness athlete thing, right? That they started this year for January and something that you want to change or something you want to do, or have you given that thought?
You know, I guess really my wild goals are still to be doing these mountains. You know, like I said, I go to Ecuador, and a lot of it, it's not. I guess my wild goal is really just to try and open up these doors for other people. You know, because I'm as an above the knee amputee going out to Ecuador and climbing, or Denali, or Everest, or any of these other mountains, Mount Vincent in Antarctica. You know, I'm doing it to hopefully give it to other people. Like, I want to go through and try and true the prosthetics and figure out what's going to work best for other people, or the cramp on feet, or, you know, the random other just engineering things. Like, those are really, I guess that's really my goal, is to make it out alive, make it to the summit and be successful, but come down with a wealth of knowledge to be able to share that with other people. Right.
And like, even when we were looking at that one video, I'm like, why would you not use something different than a hiking boot on the end of your prosthetic on that? You know, it's like. And
so those are the little things. Like, yeah, I have a ton of goals. I mean, I feel like each month there's a different thing going on, really.
So you could narrow it down to one goal of 2018, other than just giving back and being selfless.
Yes,
right?
That's the big thing. As you know, just acquiring the knowledge that I can from these just blessings that I have in my life and giving those to other people.
Right. But how can people find you to follow this awesome epic journey you're on? I mean, I'm blown away thinking about all this stuff you got coming up. I mean, you mentioned volcano.
Yeah, Cotopaxi.
I want to do a volcano.
Yeah, it's actually been closed the last few years to climbers because it's been so active. So, like I said, make it back alive. February 9th, I'll let everybody know that I came back and I summited, and I'm in one piece. But yeah, there's lots of moving parts, and I'm just really lucky.
Okay, so I keep interrupting and change the subject, but how can people find you?
Oh yeah, sorry. People can find me on social media via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's just my name, Kirstie Ennis, or Kirstie_Ennis.
So if someone really has a genuine question and someone that's, you know, passionate, really wants some information, that's how they can get a hold of you, or can they email you? Can they do anything like that? Yeah,
my email address is linked to all of my social media accounts. Okay. Shoot me a message, or shoot me a direct message on the social media, and I would love to hear back from people. Like, I want to know what people are curious about or how I can help them in different ways.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your transparency, your selflessness, and everything you're doing to give back through the things that you're doing, and thanks for taking the time to sit down with me. I really appreciate it. It was really, really nice to get to know you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you
so much. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to Wilderness Attitude. Remember, go to wildernessathlete.com. You can throw your wild goal in there. They got some really cool stuff they're giving away. You know, we really like to hear from you as well. You can go to wildernessattitude.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Send us an email. Send us a 1-star rating, 5-star rating. Tell us if we suck. Tell us if we're good. We just want to do the best for you. And we really hope you enjoy these new cameras we're rolling, because they're really sweet. So thank you, Kate, for helping us out with that. And once again, we'll talk to you next week.